What a Wild Spirit Brings by Lil, Chapter 20. She finally stopped laughing and was offered some soup attentively. They were so confused and yet so concerned. It was actually very touching. She realized Mitten had gone away somewhere, probably trying to keep her face emotionless and crying at the same time, even though alone. I want to apologize to Mitten Haldani. Mornay looked relieved. Then Gimp Haldani will show you to her room. I must return to ruling the country. Perhaps if you are feeling up to it, you might join me for dinner. I would like that, cousin. And Lil is also not a suitable name for royalty. At least it is Andry, though. Lil laughed at her cousin. Much laughter today, the queen said as if it were a bad thing. Lil realized they must think that she is insane. Was she? Was he already dead and the voice was made up? Sissy! Henry said with affront at the notion. Lil laughed inside, since it was creeping the other women in the room out, and hopped up with her bowl of soup. To my friend Mitten, she said with a smile. As you say, Gimp said, looking no less on guard. They walked through the great stone halls, filled with odd pillars that were wide on the bottom and top, but thin in the middle. There were woven tapestries of people with golden hair from the royal line, and battles won, and family crests. The floors were flowing with long, golden threaded rugs, and there were huge chandeliers in every room, the halls that they passed through. They finally came to a door painted red. Gimp moved to knock, but Lil barged in, apology on her lips. Mitten yanked away from a man with black hair in a large chair with red cushions, shoving her breast back into her dress. Lil started blushing and wanted to tackle the man at the same time. His blue eyes looked sharp, but his face was smiling. I don't like him either, sissy, but not for the same reason. He's Caldorkin. Lil, what are you doing here? I thought you hated me. I came to say I'm sorry for what I said before. I hope you would still be my friend. Lil felt a little awkward saying it in front of this man. Why did she have to see that round breast? Damn, if she saw it, then Henry did too. It's all right, sissy. I don't like her like you like her. She is nice, though. You should be with her, not him. I would like that. Lil wanted to hug him, so she pictured herself hugging him. He was smiling, and she could feel it, and was trying to hug her back. Yes, I want us to be friends, Lil. Lil, when they told me you had been raped in the garden after I left, I thought I was going to die. I didn't leave your side even for relieving myself until you ran away. Lil felt her love for Mitten grow, and her shame at blaming her grow with it. The woman's face was so tender and regretful. She ran forward and hugged her. For a few minutes she didn't even notice that her face was against that once bare breast. Of course, when those very few minutes were gone, she couldn't breathe. Mitten Haldani pulled her head up and kissed her cheeks, just like she had in the garden. Lil felt a twinge of remembrance, but then shoved it down. This time there was no rape in store. Demene was miles and miles south. Kiss her, sissy. No, Henry, she was with that man. So, you belong with her. But she might get mad if I do. She might not even speak to me anymore. I guess. Someday, Henry, we'll figure out how to get her. Yes, we will, he said as a matter of fact. Lil laughed at him and sighed again. You seem awfully merry all of a sudden, Mitten said. Do I? Lil said with a mischievous grin. The Haldanis shook her head, smiling, dismissing the transformation and enjoying the happy girl. This is my jerk, she said, swinging an arm towards the man with black hair and blue eyes. Hello, Lil. How does he know my name? Lil shouted, pulling back from Mitten. He is not my friend. Oh, Lil, well, he is mine. Can't you trust me? He won't use your name against you. I could accept that Gimp and Mornay know it, but this? Who else have you told? No one, Lil. Lil looked at her friend with distrust, and Mitten Haldani looked at her with frustration. Don't fight with her, sissy. You love her. Fight with him. Lil pointed at the man and glared at him. I am of the Entha. We have invented some wonderful means of torture, she said, trying to imitate Demene's evil grin. Are you threatening my lover? Mitten said, furious. It's all right, darling. He said it with such poise and disinterest. Lil wanted to bash his head into the headboard of the chair he was lounging on. He smiled at Mitten like he was saying he only cared about her. Mitten smiled back, her anger subsiding. Lil was cringing inside. They really are in love, Henry. She's never looked at me like that. She could. He's just in the way. But what am I supposed to do about it? I am thinking up a plan. You are? Yes, if you want her, then you will have her. You should have everything you want, Sissy. I love you and I want you to be happy. I love you too, Henry, and thanks, but I think that you'd have to be a genius to figure this one out. Why, thank you. For calling me a genius, he said, laughing. Lil laughed too, and for everyone in the room looked at her suddenly. She turned to leave Mitten alone with the man for the moment, and then turned quickly. Friend, my cousin has asked me to dine with her. Is there anything I should know about, well, protocol and all? Mitten Haldani sighed a little and gave an apologetic look to Jerk. Then she turned out and walked out with Lil and Gimp back toward her room, talking about her needing a suitable dress to start with. Lil just grinned happily. Henry grinned with her. Gimp and Mitten picked out a dress with black roses embroidered into white silk. They used their power to put her hair up and then sat her down at a little table and taught her about the 8 utensils used at dinner. Basically, one worked from the outside in, but why they couldn't just eat with a knife like everybody else was beyond Lil. The two Haldani took turns leaving and putting on a nice dress themselves. Gimp Haldani even wore something showing off her cleavage a bit. Somehow Mitten Haldani looked better, even though she had lace up to her jaw. They sat at dinner with Queen Mornay at the head of a table which was separated and squared with 2 others. On the Queen's right was a man in golden armor with black roses painted onto the right side of his breastplate. On her left was a nurse holding a toddler dressed in silk and sharing the royal golden hair. Lil didn't have the golden locks, but her face had some of the same shape, and she definitely had the same temperament. Besides, they all had gray eyes, even her. Most Andry had gray eyes, but normal ones had red hair. Hers was brownish gold. Light if she was part Entha, and their hair was sandy, then her hair was a proper combination. Yay! Henry cheered. How can everything come together so well in some ways and fall apart miserably in others, little brother? I don't know. Some genius, hee. He laughed. She sat on her at the left table with some people she didn't know with golden hair. Gimp sat facing her, on the table across from her own, with Mitten, who sat next to her man. Lil grimaced at their little smiles at each other. She tried to avoid noticing, but she couldn't. Mitten was too important to her. Demeen was blues and Mitten was browns and reds. Demeen was a girl. Mitten was almost 40 from her looks. Demeen was hard and horrible. Mitten was amazing. Look at him stuffing his face instead of listening to her while she talks. He doesn't even deserve her. I know, little brother. Lil tried to distract herself by playing peekaboo with her little baby cousin. Mornay gave her the evil eye, so she stopped, even though the sweet girl had been enjoying it. She looked at the 3 people sitting next to her. One was male, the other 2 female. They were all older than her. She realized she was at the head of the table. Why? All of them seemed to be trying to pretend she didn't exist. Dinner was turning out to be a pain. She looked across the room past the servants at Mitten Haldani talking to Jerk again, and he was looking back at her this time. Damn. Then Lil looked at Gimp and found that she was looking at her too. The Haldani was eating slowly and watching her look at everyone. She gave her a little smile of amusement and encouragement. Lil smiled back. Then she glanced to see if Mitten had noticed Gimp and her smile at each other. She had, and was not talking to Jerk anymore. She was studying her fellow Haldani as if looking for hidden motives. Or as if she's jealous. There's no way that could be. It couldn't be that, could it? Look at her, sissy. She is jealous. She is used to you giving her all the attention. You really think so? Can't you see it? I guess so. Lil could see it now that she thought about it. Mitten seemed to dismiss that anything was going on and started talking to him again. So Lil flashed Gimp another smile, more openly this time. Gimp looked pleasantly surprised. Mitten noticed again, but didn't do much about it except frown and take a drink of her wine. It works! She wants me! She's jealous! You really are a genius! Thank you, Henry chimed as if he were taking a bow. Lil almost clapped for him. He laughed in her head. Lil decided to stare inadvertently at Gimp's Haldani's chest for the rest of dinner. Mitten actually dropped her fork to her plate forcefully to get her to stop once, and another time laughed louder than normal at something Jerk said that obviously wasn't funny from the look on his face. Lil went to bed that night sighing and replaying her Mitten's jealousy in her head. Henry and she cuddled in her mind while sleep drew her in. She could smell Mitten again, and she realized it and smiled as dreams came.